We return now to the second act of I Knew This Woman, starring Joan Crawford.
When Susan came to my house that day, she was like a quiet ghost of the girl I knew. She wasn't at ease, so of course I wasn't either. We talked awkwardly for a few minutes, and then, with a tense smile, Susan said,
"It's been nearly a month since I even phoned you. I was a little afraid about coming over today."
"Oh, that's crazy, Susan. Friends don't have to see each other every minute to stay friends. I've been busy, and I took it for granted you were, too."
I was home trying to figure something out. It's about Steve. I'm so confused, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm out of my mind.
Susan, don't. No quarrel on earth could be that bad.
We didn't quarrel. It's not that simple. Steve and I are engaged, Joan.
And you're acting like the end of the world has come.
Because I'm afraid. There's something I haven't told you about Steve. He was married before, and he has a 7-year-old son. Billy lives with his mother in a small suburban district way out.
You mean Steve just told you about them?
No, I've known from the start. At least he told me they existed. But he didn't talk about his first wife much till after we fell in love. And now, everything I say, every plan I suggest for our future, Steve connects somehow with his life with Marion.
Susan, you're going to have some miserable times if you resent a woman Steve loved before he knew you.
But I don't resent her, Joan. It's Steve's attitude about her that has me so upset. He hates Marion.
He hates?
Yes. Whenever I try to discuss our future, he says I sound just like her. Even when I talked about us getting a little house in the suburbs, he was furious. Said the reason his marriage had broken up was that Marion insisted on dragging him out to the sticks to live.
Well, that hardly seems like cause for a divorce. It doesn't make much sense.
That's what worries me. The way Steve's always saying crazy things like that. And the way he said on never having a family.
But I thought you said he has a son.
He has. His name's Billy. I wonder about that, too. Joan, could a man dislike his own little boy?
Oh, that's a shocking question, Susan.
I know. Beyond telling me Billy exists, Steve has never talked about him. Does that seem strange to you?
Yes, it seems very strange.
Well, Joan, I've got to find out what it's all about before I can marry Steve. I want you to drive out to Marion's house with me.
You're not going to talk to her?
No. I just want to see if it's an ugly shack on a corny street, as Steve says it is. Maybe I can see Billy. Maybe he'll be out in the yard playing.
Maybe it'll be a fool's errand, too.
I know. I've got to go. Will you go with me, John?
Before I answer that, I want to ask you something, Susan. What if you find out that Steve has lied to you? Are you prepared for that?
Yes. Then I'd know. I wouldn't be guessing.
But what good would it do? Look, what I'm trying to find out, Susan, is whether you're going out of a need to set your life straight or out of curiosity and jealousy.
Oh, it's not out of curiosity, John. And I'm not jealous of Marion.
Okay. That's good enough for me. I'll go with you whenever you want.
Tomorrow, then. I'll be by right after lunch tomorrow and pick you up. Oh, thank you, Joan. Thank you.
We talked very little on the drive to Marion Thompson's house the next day. We were both too worried, too afraid about how it might turn out. When we got to the suburban district, we drove slowly till we found the street where Marion lived. Then Susan parked the car under a pepper tree, and we got out and started to walk. All right. This is the 300 block. What's the number?
340. Most of the houses don't seem to be numbered.
Look, Susan, why don't we forget the whole thing and go on home, huh? Why take a chance on putting yourself through agony? Either you believe in Steve or you don't.
I know you don't mean that, Joan, because I know that lately you've had some doubts about Steve yourself.
All right. I give up. I want to spare you, but if you insist on walking into trouble...
You'll walk beside me because you're my friend.
Or because I'm a first-class dope. Oh, Susan, look. That fence with the talisman roses. Did you ever see anything so lovely?
Never in my life.
Oh, the size of them. I can't even cup one with both of my hands.
Hello there. May I pick you a bunch of the roses? We have hundreds of them, and they last so beautifully in the house.
Oh, no, thank you. They're much too lovely on the fence.
What? Well, you're Joan Crawford, aren't you?
Yes, I'm afraid I am.
Well, I'm going to be prouder than ever of my roses.
That's a very sweet thing to say. Thank you. And thank you, too, for offering me your roses.
Miss Crawford, I wonder if you'd mind... Well, if I tell Billy you were here and he doesn't get to meet you, he'll disown me.
Billy?
My little boy. I'm Marion Thompson. Billy's around the back in the patio. Look, I just took a pitcher of lemonade out. It'd be such a wonderful party for him if you and your friend would join us.
You're very kind, but I'm afraid we can't. You see, we're really on our way.
I'm Susan Crane, Mrs. Thompson, and I'm going to accept for both of us.
Oh, thank you, Miss Crane. The patio's just around the side of the house. I have the hose going on the shrubs back there. Excuse me just a minute. I'll run ahead and turn it off so you won't get soaked.
Now, look, Susan, this is ridiculous. You've seen her, you've seen the house. That's enough. You're going back there and tell her we can't accept her invitation after all. That you just noticed the time, or we'll say anything just so you can make it convincing. This whole miserable business has gone far enough.
It's okay now. Mom turned the hose off. You won't get wet, honest you won't. The lemonade's swell. I tasted it.
Billy. Joan, that's Billy.
I couldn't have moved in that moment if my life had depended on it. I just stood there, staring at the handsomest child I'd ever seen. He was looking at me in that special small boy way that says, I bet we'll be pals, you and I. He shifted his position a little so the tip of his crutches wouldn't sink into the soft earth. And as he turned, for just a second, the sun flashed on the brace that went around the shoe. And that's when I forgot the reason Susan and I were there. I forgot that only seconds before I'd told her that we had to leave. All I knew was that Billy was inviting me to a party. And I wouldn't have missed it for anything in the world.
Well, gosh, Mom, I only had 6 cookies. And you make them so good, I bet it wouldn't hurt me if I ate 100.
All right. With me, flattery will get you every place. Put a cup in your pocket. And then suppose you disappear, huh? Way past your nap time.
Yeah, I guess so. But I'd rather stay out here and talk.
Look, Billy, I'll be back soon. And then we'll talk for hours.
Cross your heart?
Mm-hmm, cross my heart.
Well, I'll be seeing you then. Gee, thanks for coming to the party.
It was a wonderful party, Billy. Goodbye and have a good nap.
Bye, Miss Crawford. Bye, Miss Crane.
Goodbye, Billy.
Take the spread off the bed before you lie down, son.
Yes, Mom.
He just hates to take his nap. But he wouldn't fuss because of you being here, Miss Crawford. I'm afraid my son's in love with you.
And I'm afraid it's mutual. He's a darling.
He really is. I'm pretty proud of Billy. He's been a good soldier through some rough times. He's doing wonderfully.
Marion, how long?
3 years. We were living in an apartment in the city when it happened. Of course, we couldn't stay there. Billy had to be where everything was on one floor with easy access to the outdoors.
He looks like he lives in the sunshine now.
He just about does. Oh, the good Lord was certainly on my side to let me find this house.
Susan. Oh, Susan, don't. Please don't.
Did I say something wrong?
No, Marion, of course not.
Tell her, Joan. Tell Marion who I am and why I'm here.
You're sure that's what you want, Susan?
That's what I want. Tell her everything.
Like a heartbroken child ashamed of herself, Susan hid her face as I began to talk to Marion. It wasn't easy, but I told her the truth about Susan and Steve, about the way Susan came to doubt him and to be afraid of a future with him. Then I hesitated, groping for words that wouldn't hurt Susan, but she wouldn't let me spare her. In a kind of monotone, she began to talk, quoting Steve, quoting the things he'd said about his life with Marion, things she couldn't believe. She told Marion how she'd begged me to come with her that day and how I'd refused to go in. That is, until I saw Billy.